Yeah, we're gonna start on that. Oh yeah, it was nearly
Well, I figured it's your team.
nearly a catastrophe. It was a roller coaster of emotions. When was it? Friday. So that yeah, just watch it. Being a night shift worker, I watch all these things, these Northern Hemisphere things unfold as they're happening. It's crazy. So the night
Yeah, look,
before, it's gone from Ronaldo to City, which would have been. I was prepared to lose all respect for Cristiano after that if he did that,
yeah,
especially after comment.
that would have been
It would have
so
tarnished.
weird.
They surely would have tarnished Dynasty after everything he'd done for United back in 2003, 2009. I don't know. I was comparing it.
I can't imagine watching him run out in a sky blue jersey. Like,
there's so many different. Oh, fair enough, like another Premier League team, but not City. Like you can compare it to so many other major sports. Like imagine if Kobe played for the Clippers, like finished his career at the Clippers for a season. It would just just lose so much respect.
Yeah, like you said, any other team would have been fine, but City was just no, not that one team is no.
But poor City fans. Like, do we feel sorry for them? No. But
no, they had the most expensive Premier League lineup last week, and they scraped.
How's last night? Did you see it last night? 5-0 Arsenal, effortless.
Arsenal, yes. Oof.
What happened to Chelsea?
1-1 draw after a dodgy penalty decision.
But crisis avoided, and bring on the jerseys.
When do you reckon he debuts? Next week? Surely not this week.
Oh, nah. Oh, maybe not even next week. I just want to know what number he's going to play.
It depends if he's in England.
Well, I don't think he's done the medical. Yeah, I don't think he's even done the medical yet.
And then I imagine there's like a quarantine period as well. So like maybe not next week either. Maybe the week after.
I don't think Europe's pre-COVID times already. I think they're back to normal. I've just seen footage of a concert at the races at Newmarket last night. There was thousands and thousands jam-packed race calls after the races.
I think Europe in general is that way, but I think the Premier League still have like a mandatory quarantine period for new players.
Yeah, they're on top of it, I guess.
But yeah, so that'll be interesting to see.
Pretty crazy, bro. Pretty crazy. It's almost, I don't know, I was trying to think like the Messi saga a couple of weeks ago. That sort of was the big thing. Is that sort of taken everyone's excitement out of Ronaldo? Because imagine if Messi to PSG didn't happen, this Ronaldo caper would be astronomical. It's just sort of like, oh, it's happening again. Like building super teams in the NBA, it's like, oh, yeah, cool. Another super team just got formed. But realistically, it's absolutely huge.
Oh,
I just feel Messi taking everyone's energy and excitement out of it. Like everyone's like used up their like wowzers fact.
Yep. Well, I think there's like 4 super teams in the Premier League now. Like you've got United. They've got a pretty stacked team now with Ronaldo.
Maybe. Are we calling Chelsea a super team?
Well, I would think so. The squad is stacked. Isn't like that second string team could run out on the park for most Premier League teams.
United's always been sort of the original super team. They've always been that club where you get your Ibras, Schweinsteigers, Beckham. You could even say like they just go there for like a retirement tour.
Yes, I think you've got United, Chelsea, obviously City with the most expensive team ever, and Liverpool, and then poor Arsenal are running around with kids.
Battling relegation.
Yep. Yeah, have fun with that one, buddy.
Scored a goal in 3 games. Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah, I saw this week that at the end of the month they have to pick their goal of the month from training videos.
That's classic.
Like, ouch.
You can have that. Hey, your Rangers jersey, just perfect segue. I was just speaking with the great Dylan Narona before we come on air. Apparently, Pittsburgh is the only city in the world, and Wollongong, Pittsburgh and Wollongong, the only 2 cities in the world where each sporting team shares the same colours. Did you know that?
Huh.
You got Wolves red and white, Dragons red and white, and I suppose you could say the Hawks are the same. And Pittsburgh, they've obviously got the Pirates black and yellow,
Yeah,
and
everything's black
Steelers
and
black
yellow.
and yellow. Apparently, they're the only two cities in the world. If you can think of another one, let me know. I'm to do some research in later. There's got to be more. I was thinking maybe
Yeah,
like
'cause-
Florida, got the Gators, they got like an orange and blue. The Marlins are sort of an orange and blue. Miami Dolphins, they're sort of the same, but they're different, a little bit different, but it's the same sort of thing. New York's very heavily blue. Got Rangers, obviously, Yankees, Knicks, they're all like similar. But
the Giants. Yeah, New York's
Giants,
very blue, but yeah, I think that's the only
Yeah.
one. Like
it's not very.
LA's
It's got to be though.
a spattering of
LA's
colours.
Yeah.
Boston is
Sort of
mainly green, but then the Patriots ruined that system.
Yeah, true. That's the Irish influence.
But yeah, that's
Yeah, it's an interesting one. It should be more common. Dylan did say though, because it's a bit too hard to do in like Europe, and because it's so many different football teams in each city, like soccer.
Yeah, no, that'd be difficult. But like Australia, you'd think it would happen a lot more. Like,
Yeah, definitely it should
no.
be.
Yeah,
It's an interesting
Pittsburgh
one
is
for
very
your Sunday.
Pittsburgh is that
Put
one
some
that stands
Pittsburgh.
out like a sore thumb.
Have
Though.
Pittsburgh
Like,
got an
everything's black
MLS
and yellow.
team? Yeah. I don't know who else at Pittsburgh got.
I don't think they do. I don't know.
Yeah, it made me ponder.
On that black and yellow front, I checked out Candyman this week, which
Man, I've been trying to watch it. I can't find it anyway. You got that
Yeah, well-
preview screening, didn't you? Lucky
Yep.
boy.
yeah, it's not
How'd
out
it go?
yet.
I'm being.
I
Did it,
really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Did you enjoy Us as much as you were anticipating?
No.
Exactly. Yeah. See, he had a lot to follow on from. Like, I thought that it was a good movie, Us. But I just felt it
It was- It was a letdown compared to Get Out, his first one.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, Get Out it was huge shoes to fill. Then
Yeah,
Us, then yeah, that's. I'm just really curious to watch Candyman and see if it he sort of redeemed himself. But I don't think he really cares, does he? He just wants to.
Yeah, for me, it felt like a
I'm
return to
saying
form for Jordan Peele. Like it got back,
Yeah.
not quite to the level of Get Out, but close to it. And I think because he was only the screenwriter on this one, it was always going to be hard to follow it up exactly. But I think it's done a good job. He's brought in Nia DaCosta to direct it, and she's directed stuff before, Top Boy. And
Yeah.
she's doing one of the upcoming Marvel films called The Marvels.
Has he directed Get Out and Us? Did he direct them or just produce them?
He directed Get Out. Us, I think he was the director of, but he at least wrote Us.
Yeah.
And then this one, Candyman, acts as it's a spiritual sequel to the original 1992
Yeah, I was going to
Candyman.
mention. Have you seen the original, or do you need to watch the original? Because
I haven't seen the original.
I was trying to find a copy on the one. And I was like, whoa, all I could find was the original. And like, well, do I need to be watching this?
Yeah, well, I'm pretty sure I haven't seen the original. Like, I know the sort of basis of it, but I didn't feel like I missed anything pivotal. There's obviously some small touches and references that I probably missed, but for the most part, I got everything out of this film that I think I needed. It's set in modern day Chicago in like one of the former ghettos that's now been like gentrified and made sort of one of those upmarket refreshed areas of so it's called Cabrini Green, which used to be like a ghetto housing estate with all the apartments and stuff, and they've upscaled those into big, expensive loft apartments. That the house that they focus on, like, this thing is massive for an apartment. I think it's like 3 stories, just gigantic. And we see Anthony McCoy and his partner, Brianna Cartwright, living there. Anthony's an artist, and sort of as a way to rediscover some inspiration for his artwork, he begins researching the history of the area, Cabrini Green, and in doing so, unwittingly sort of unleashes the Candyman terror on anyone that's silly enough to utter the name 5 times into a mirror or reflective surface. And it's sort of, overall, the movie touches on a lot of those themes and topics that you expect from a Jordan Peele movie. So racism.
Very political.
Yeah, lots of racial injustice themes. Police brutality is a big one in this one.
Yep.
The idea that areas that were formerly relegated to just the black community are now they've been squashed down to the point where the land value and the value of the area was so low that these developers can come in and then upscale them and refresh them and gentrify them into these rich, more white, affluent neighborhoods. And the way they've done that is with the story itself, obviously, but the way it's shot as well. Like, they show the original, like the flashbacks to the time of when it was the ghetto, and it's very just, there's just black people everywhere. The houses are all sort of run down and everything. And then when it comes back into the modern time, these houses it's more like there's parks and it's nice areas. There's no police around. It's all these white people living around. They're getting their coffees. They're going to art shows, and it does it in a way that sort of, it doesn't distract from the story, but it lifts up the horror elements. Like, the horror is the key focus of the movie. And I really enjoyed the way that Nia DaCosta has come in as the director, and she's really worked on these like shots of the areas where it's framed in a way that's like really artistic. Like, it was just this really special way of shooting it, that each shot you're like, oh, that's actually a really pretty shot, just with the background and the way that the characters are framed within the shots.
Yep. Yeah, see, I was just about to mention it, but you mentioned on what did you say? It made me think of Us again. Like, where it really, like, the horrors were there, but I think he focused a bit too much on the message.
Yep.
This one is sort of went a bit too far off track, and that's what made me sort of lose interest in it. Like, the storyline just took too many turns that didn't really add up and make sense, just to like try have a target destination of this what do you call it, meaning of the whole film. Yeah,
I think Us does fall into that trap of, let's push the message to the front rather than focus on just telling a good story, good horror movie.
Yeah.
This one falls apart at the end a little bit, where it gets a little bit like, hey, what is the actual characters' motivations and meanings here? But overall, I really enjoyed the movie.
Yep. Will you be watching the original? Or unnecessary?
I think
is it a? You said it was a sequel, but is the remake not a remake? Actually, it's a sequel.
No, it's a sequel. Like, they have characters return from the original.
Yeah, cool.
I know they got one of the actors that was a little kid in that original is now an adult in this one. So it does follow on. It ignores like the sequels that happened in the mid to late 90s. It just follows directly on from that first one, but you don't need that foreknowledge. Like, if you've got it, you'll probably pick up a lot more subtleties and little Easter eggs and stuff. But I think for me, like, just this one by itself told the story enough.
Yeah, I've been trying to watch it for over a week or two, but yeah, I'm definitely gonna try. I think it's a cinematic release, so
Yes. Yeah, I think it's cinemas.
Which
at the
doesn't
moment.
help us at all. For
Yeah,
at
it's a bit hard
least
to
a couple months.
watch a cinema release when you're in lockdown still for the next, God knows how long, another month.
Minimum.
Or for you
But
anyway.
I am up, yeah.
I'm hoping to be out of it by next week. Or week after.
Why? Was your
Shell Harbour's officially
double jabbed
regional
up?
again.
Oh, yes, that's true. That's as of September, eh?
Yeah, the 14th.
Common sense prevails.
They're
I don't think
refreshing.
regional rules aren't that much crash on either at the moment, are they?
At
I
the
think you can
moment, we're still
get
in the same lockdown situation, but hopefully, if we get the reduced restrictions, it's just wear a mask indoors.
Wollongong needs to follow suit. It's barbaric.
Yeah, you would think so, but yeah.
Speaking of cinematic only releases and us not being able to go to cinemas, I've been watching heaps of documentaries.
Yep.
Couple of old ones, couple of new ones. Let's start with the new ones. Untold, Malice at the Palace, very popular one amongst my basketball friends and peers. So I'm sure a lot of people are aware of, like me. I was aware of this happening. I don't know any backstory of why it happened, but Ron Artest, when he got into the stands during towards the end of that game, back when he was playing for the Pacers, and he was throwing punches at fans. I think we all know of the incident, but this is pretty much. Well, I think it's going to be a documentary series called Untold, and this is just volume 1. It's an hour feature, and it pretty much just focuses on the lead up to that season of this bad boy Pacers team they assembled. Ron Artest, Stephen Jackson. No, sorry, Stephen Jackson was like on the Pistons. Like Jermaine O'Neal. Yeah, just this really sort of Rodman-esque Bulls style of playing and ruthlessness, and that really fierce rivalry with the Pistons. I think it was like 2004. Yeah, so it pretty much follows the season leading up to it and the dramas and the tensions. And yeah, it gets I'm surprised that it was like a 10-minute, 15-minute brawl, and they've managed to stretch it out into like an hour feature. But everyone thought it was going to be a couple of
Hang on a
parts
second.
to it.
Whoop. Lovely. Love the dogs when they do that.
You know what I mean? But yeah, so this is I think this is part 1 of a series of obviously what I can gather. Untold. It's going to be behind the scenes of things like this, which is pretty cool. But yeah, this is very, very interesting. They did well. They got a lot of good footage to put this together. Sort of like The Last Dance. Very well put together. It would have taken a long time to get all the footage together.
Oh yeah. So that,
But,
from what I can
very
gather,
blessed.
what I gather looking into the Untold banner that Netflix is rolling out, it looks like it's their version of like the ESPN 30 for 30s.
Yeah, that's probably perfect. You've nailed that.
So I think they're just like commissioning directors and people that have an idea for a documentary around sport or sports stories to go, hey, we'll commission this, we'll put it under the Untold banner, and we'll roll them out over Netflix. What story do you want to tell? What funding do you need?
Very similar to The Last Dance. I almost thought it was the same producers. The way it's put together is very similar, but that was obviously ESPN, and this looks like just a Netflix exclusive. But yeah, we're definitely blessed at the moment, I think, to be living in current trend of exceptionally well put together sports documentaries. Keep them coming, I reckon. It's just perfect.
I really do think like those 30 for 30s that sort of took off. They've
great ones.
I think they've sort of set the trend of people like, hey, you can tell an interesting story about
it's
sport.
It's almost a Ron Artest 30 for 30 with it focusing on around the fight.
Oh yeah, they very much follow his story and his
you got a chance to watch
mental struggles. Yep. I think I watched it like a day or two after it dropped.
Yeah, same. It's very popular, and it's if you're fans of your 30 for 30s, Last Dance, etc., etc., this is a must. How's at the end? I don't know if this is a spoiler. I guess if you know, you know. But I didn't realize the Palace they knocked it down. It was pretty cool. Sort of how they ended like that, and it sort of relieved. And the other players that are involved say, "I'm not going to be able to close the door on this or forget about it until the Palace is gone." And they did. They knocked it down. They knocked the arena down.
Yeah, I assumed it was still there, but obviously
Yeah,
not.
I didn't even realize. So it was yeah, it was pretty deep that I feel like emotionally for everyone involved, like so they could finally close the door on it because they knocked the whole building down.
Yeah.
Like a lot of players, I think were ashamed of what happened. But one thing that was interesting me of how the police actually are the ones with the common sense in this thing. By the NBA, like David Stern just made an example of the players straight out.
He went
to please
hard
everyone.
on everyone.
Which destroyed careers really. Well, it prevented Reggie Miller from getting his ring because half his team was out, and they were like,
they were suspended for the rest of the season.
They were going to win. That was their year redemption.
Yeah.
But then the police come out and like, hey, no, this isn't the players. The players aren't at fault here. They were doing what they needed to do. We're going to focus on the patrons, the fans, and we're going to crack down on the reason this started. Yeah, really. When they interviewed a couple of the main guys, the guy that threw the beer and the guy that went on the court.
The guy that went on the court, what an idiot.
When they were interviewing them, they were so smug about it too.
Oh, yeah. When they were interviewing that guy that was on the court, I'm like, you idiot. Like, what did you expect was going to come from that? Like, nothing good was coming from trying to fight Ron Artest.
Sort of like, that was a real life early 2000s scenario of people mouthing off and openly abusing professional athletes and celebrities online, like on Twitter, but then all of a sudden they reply. Then they're, oh, sorry, bro. No, I'm actually a massive fan. Peace. Like that is because people think they can just say whatever they want. Then all of a sudden, one of these people reply. They're like, "Oh no, hang on, you're a real person."
Yep.
So that guy's gone on the court like, "Oh yeah, let's go. You're not going to do anything. You're a professional athlete." And then boom. So.
Oh yeah. He definitely didn't expect Ron Artest to fire back, but then when he did, he was like, "Oh yeah, I stuffed up here. This was a big mistake."
Yeah, I don't know who in their right mind is doing that. But yeah, he turned his life around and later changed his name to Meta World Peace. Won a chip with the Great Lakers. Which
I remember when he came out with that name, I laughed so bad.
Yeah, same. I remember it clearly. I was only young.
It's like, what?
Yeah, just so he could have world peace on the back of the jerseys. Good on him. But he still doesn't really like talking about it. None of them do.
Yeah, and like I understand them not wanting to talk about that. Like, and I think this was this documentary like the first time that they'd actually shown the full footage since like it initially broadcast. Like it wasn't on the news or anything.
No, I think that's what they promoted as. Like this is the first time it was. Hence, Untold.
You'll see the whole thing uncut.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I'm pretty sure like they were saying
crazy
the news footage was all just clips.
Yeah. And probably one-sided bias stories, depends what city was broadcasting it.
Well, I think anywhere. Like, pretty much every clip they showed was just like, yeah, the players are thugs. I was like, hang on. They didn't really do a lot wrong here.
It was it might have been some Eastern European football game. Would have been over the weekend, or 2 weeks ago. Same sort of thing happened. Did you see it? I've seen a video going around on Twitter.
The Nice Football Club, I think it was. And like the fans were throwing bottles and stuff on the field. And
Southern French derby or something, and same sort of thing. And fans ended up flocking onto the field with like altercations with players. But then the same thing in Malice at the Palace. What they were like, hang on a minute, we can't control this. There's 2 police officers, so we just need to get the players off the court. I can't believe that they took them so long. Like, wasn't that the first thing they thought of, just to get the players off the court? Then it would have been resolved. But the players just stayed out there and they sort of like instigated, kept like egging it on. Like,
because the police never got the players off the court, so it was only
can't have fight without fuel. Just get rid of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then like in this French football fight, same thing. The players are just there, like in the stands, like, come on. But yeah, another sports documentary I watched. It's a few years old. It's called All This Mayhem. I've been putting off watching it for a long time, and I've had a lot of recommendations. So it's about Ben and Taz Pappas. People might know them, like maybe your age. They're two brothers, pro skaters, vert skaters, for like the late 90s, early 2000s, who were like sort of going toe to toe with Tony Hawk back when vert skating was like the thing. And anyway, this is pretty much tells a story. So Tony Hawk is known for landing the first 900. Like he is the 900 guy. But this is pretty much the story of the two brothers being brought up in like sort of rough Melbourne, suburban Melbourne, then hitting the scene in America. And Taz Pappas, one of the brothers, actually landed the first 900. That was his trick. He planned on doing the trick in the best trick contest at X Games in this particular that year. And Tony Hawk had a guy sort of secretly filming Taz practicing this trick privately. And Tony Hawk comes out and does the trick out of nowhere. And X Games X Games didn't let Taz compete in the best trick. It was very corrupt. So Tony Hawk was like this poster boy in the like that era, late 90s, early 2000s for skateboarding. Like he sort of like skateboarding was this like pretty rough punk sort of thing, like as everyone sort of knows it as. But Tony Hawk really brushed that image off and sort of turned it into showbiz and theatre and more like TV and family friendly, and like really made a show of it. And ESPN obviously loved that because that's got ratings all over it. So they sort of became one, so they could really sell the sport and have it this theatrical thing. And these two boys from Melbourne hated that. They were like, this isn't what skateboarding's all about. And anyway, yeah, so Tony Hawk basically stole the trick and claimed it as his own. And it's the story of the two brothers. And
Nice.
they're sort of feud with Tony Hawk. But yeah, I grew up a just huge Tony Hawk fan. Like I idolised him. I still do. So I was like, really didn't want to. I was really trying to put this off because I knew it would paint like this bad image of Tony Hawk, which it sort of did, but no love lost. But it was definitely an interesting side of it. It would open a lot of people's eyes to how Tony Hawk acted. So a lot of people know Tony Hawk as this really fun, just super cool, like just probably one of the most famous people you could say in the world. Like I don't know if you're following him on Twitter, but he's constantly posting photos and recollections of people saying, "Hey, can I get a photo of you? You look so much like Tony Hawk." Like that side of it's sort of his thing. So he's like very popular these days, but back then he wasn't as popular. It appears. So it was very cool. I think it came out in like 2014. This doco, so it's pretty old. But yeah, extremely well put together and very emotional. I won't say. I won't get any spoilers, but yeah, very emotional.
Is that on a streaming service?
Yeah, it's on Apple TV actually.
Okay, sweet.
I think you watch it for like $5. I mean, maybe you don't even have to. Can't remember. But yeah, very good. But yeah, I'll put it off for so long because of my love affair with Tony Hawk. It's very cool point of view, though.
It feels like Tony Hawk was like the skater that made skateboarding into like a professional sport. Like he gave it that. Yeah, that vibe of I'm an athlete, not just a kid down in the park.
Yeah, I think he sort of did have a bit of a more. Well, you can't compare. He grew up in like Southern California in the surf years, whereas these two boys grew up in like drug-riddled suburban Melbourne. But I think just they're different cultures, and Tony Hawk's like, once he got to the top, he's like, I'm going to use my platform and my voice, and I'm going to turn this into a business. Where the other two are still just partying and doing drugs and carrying on with their prize money and living week to week, even though they're pretty loaded. Whereas Tony Hawk obviously just put on the nice guy image and
like he treated it as a
so to speak, as
a profession, and
and now look where it's landed,
like a professional athlete.
And if you compare it to where the other two, the Pappas brothers, where it landed them, it's very sheer contrasting.
Yep.
Yeah, Tony Hawk, 8 games later and still as well known as ever.
I do love that, like, he's famous for being Tony Hawk, but not famous enough that people like see him and go, "Yeah, you're definitely Tony Hawk."
Yeah, he just looks like a lookalike of himself. It's so funny.
Like you look a lot like Tony Hawk. Yeah, people say that.
Like people just don't expect to see Tony Hawk doing
On
everyday things, I
just
guess.
aeroplanes.
Because he's that well known.
The store.
I mean, and people just don't expect like, oh, this obviously isn't Tony Hawk, but it looks like him. No, it's me. But funny stuff.
And what was the last doco you were checking out?
Oh, this one I'm very passionate about. Woodstock 99. There's a new Woodstock 99 documentary on. I think it was on Binge. Yeah, this is an interesting one. Did you have a look at it?
Only the like pictures when I was making graphics up for today. And did this event have Limp Bizkit on it?
Yeah, this is like one of the greatest festivals ever. It had Limp Bizkit, Chili Peppers, one of their most iconic sets, like Bush, Live, Kid Rock.
Oof.
I think No Doubt, you name it. It was just it's huge. But yeah, one of my favorite festivals that happened that I obviously never attend. I'm always watching live YouTube, like the sets on YouTube. But yeah, there's a lot of controversy. I think Limp Bizkit's set was probably the most notorious out of the lot. I think there was a lot of like sexual assault and maybe a couple of deaths that were recorded, and it all like happened during Limp Bizkit's set, and it was just pure carnage. And like I think Fred Durst might have even ended up getting charged for inciting riot and things like that.
Jeez.
And Chili Peppers got a like really iconic set too. Flea ran out completely naked, just wearing his bass guitar, and played the whole set nude. And there was like spot fires happening in the crowd, and Kiedis was just encouraging that after being told before he goes on to not mention it. But yeah, so this is the documentary. I was because I'm such a big fan of this crazy festival. I was sort of hoping a little celebration of it, like just a documentary that follows the music side of it and really focus on that. But this is a very one-sided, biased, I'm going to say political jab at the festival, at the organisers. And it really made me not enjoy it. Every time it sort of tried to focus on the music, it just slammed it with negatives. Yeah, it was very liberal, I thought, and anti-carnage.
Okay, so it focused more on the controversial elements rather than the music.
I was really excited. Yeah, I was really excited to watch it just because of how much I love the festival and I wanted to see the music side of it. But it glorified the disaster of it a lot, which realistically it probably was one of the most horrific music festivals. It made Coachella look like a tea party, so to speak.
Yep. Yeah, it sounds like it was pretty off the rails.
Yeah, it didn't celebrate the festival at all, which people will argue the festival shouldn't be celebrated because of what happened and people got really hurt. Yeah, I just didn't really like the point of view we were talking. I was pretty upset. I watched the whole thing and I was like, it's just this isn't for me.
There's a way to like convey that message of like, hey, this festival was off the wall ridiculous, but there's also a way to like, hey, while all this bad stuff was happening, this festival had pretty much all of the iconic bands from the 90s. Like, let's look at that. Like, that's never going to happen again. Like, you're not going to go to a festival, like, apart from maybe a Coachella these days, that has all of the iconic bands from the 2010s.
Yeah. Yeah, it was did you watch that Fire Festival documentary that came out?
Yep.
It's pretty much the exact same as that, as far as a point of discussion.
Okay, it totally basically just
ignores that angle.
Here's the ridiculous stuff that happened.
So yeah, I was really excited to watch this, and once it sort of got in, I was like, what is this tripe? Like, it made me just love the festival even more.
Yeah, if you can just like watch the performances, and that's enough.
But yeah, that was a disappointing one. After getting so ready to watch it, sat down. I was like, yes, finally. After a couple of people told me to watch it, and I was like, yes, this is gonna be sick. And I was like, oh, no, what is happening? What have they done with this?
Spewing.
This is a disaster. It is a disaster, but the documentary was a disaster. Let's just say that.
Yeah, on that music front, I was watching an episode of an old episode of Spicks and Specks the other day, and they had
Oh, how good!
they had Winston from Parkway Drive on there.
Yeah. Winston
And
McCall.
I was like, yeah, and I was like, you know what? I want to go back and watch the Parkway Drive, Viva The Underdogs, because it's on Netflix now.
Yeah,
So
it
I went
is.
back and
Only come up
rewatched
last
that.
month. Bro, I still haven't seen it. Maybe that's what I'll do the start before footy starts.
Yeah, that's a good one. Like, I went back and rewatched it during the week. I was like, yeah, this was a good documentary. Like, it's just cool to see the insane Euro metal festivals pre-COVID. Like,
They are so big in Europe, those guys.
the festival that
I didn't.
they build to as
Some of those metal
their
festivals
headline at the end
are
is
crazy.
insane. Like, it looked like
Crazy,
probably
some of those metal
100,000 people.
festivals.
Like, it was massive.
Yeah.
And they had like
there was a
50
documentary
foot
they did probably
pyro.
15 years ago, 10 years ago. Another tour documentary. I forgot what it was called. Same thing. I was like, what the hell? Why are these festivals so gnarly, and why are they frothing Parkway Drive so much? Like, it's obvious because their music's actually very unique for the genre.
Oh yeah.
And they're just the OGs. Yeah, the Byron Boys. It's huge in Eastern Europe.
That's the funny part. Like, you listen to their music and you're like, nah, these guys aren't from Byron Bay. Like, that's not the music you expect.
Few bodyboarders from the North Coast.
That's not the music you expect to come out of Byron Bay, but it did, and they blew up, and they're now headlining Euro metal festivals. It's like, okay. Like the same festivals that Motorhead and...
I think yearly I say I could go a Parkway gig, and I'm definitely overdue.
Oh yeah, the last year without any gigs has been very weird, and then the gigs that you do get to go to is sit down.
I was actually thinking the other day, the last gig I went to was DMA's at the Factory Theatre, and it was last August, and it was a sit down. It was top three I'm going to call it, gigs I've been to. As soon as I got there and sat down, I was like, this is incredible. There was two of us. We had a nice little round table, almost like candlelit, like two back from the stage. There was a little buzzer for table service beers, and just kept coming all night. It was brilliant. I enjoyed it. Legs crossed, just sitting back, watching some DMAs. I said to my mate, I'm not going to another gig unless I'm sitting down like this.
you want those gigs to stay around more?
Oh, it was incredible. I was loving it. It was so just wholesome concert experience.
Everyone, I wonder if bands will start offering they'll do the 2-night gigs, and one of them will be the sit down drinks and dinner gig, and then the other one will be the all out mosh pit.
Even an early sitting, like a 6 p.m. moment.
Yep.
Because that's what DMAs are doing. They're doing 2 a night.
Yeah, do an early one that's a sit down dinner, drinks, and then one that's the all out let's go nuts party gig.
Especially in an acoustic. Like, you maybe do the sit down acoustic gig first. Surely bands wouldn't mind that for a bit of a warm up.
Yeah, and then I guess they get 2 lots of ticket sales and some extra money.
Yeah, instead of doing 2 nights, we'll do a 6 p.m. acoustic sit down gig, then you can go for dinner, or you can go for dinner, pre-drink, then come to the normal gig.
Yeah, that seems like a brilliant idea. Let's pitch it to some bands. Get our little 5%.
I'll hit up Live Nation. I'll hit the DMs. Nah, I just want anything at the moment. I'll go for a game of reserve grade rugby league live if I can at the moment. I just want something. I can't even go to Dapto Dogs.
Yeah, that's
struggling. Can't do anything.
Yeah, I'd happily just go and watch Buddy or Dylan or someone play soccer at the moment, but they can't even do that.
Yeah, 100%.
It's just I'm missing something. while I'm missing all the live sport, I tried to fill my time with some Netflix movies. I watched a movie called Blood Red Sky. Have you seen that one pop up on there?
Actually, it sounds familiar.
So
Let's
it's
look it up.
a 2021 action horror movie that's obviously now streaming on Netflix.
Oh yeah.
It was filmed in German, but they've, like they always do, they have the English dubbing or you can get the subtitles.
Yes.
I watched it with the dubbing, and this was like one of those first times where it didn't like put me off or anything. I actually didn't really even notice the dubbing all that badly. There was a couple of points where I was like,
too at the end of this.
there was a couple of points where I was like, oh yeah, that's clearly dubbed. And like the first scene, I was like, wait, is this in English or is this dubbed? Like I couldn't tell.
Would you say it is French?
German.
German. This looks gnarly, bro.
Yeah, so it's a movie about vampires. It starts out with a woman catches this flight with her young kid, and she's clearly like sick, and you think, oh yeah, she's just got cancer or something like that. They get on this plane, and it turns out that no, she doesn't have cancer. She's a vampire. She's going from Europe to America to see a doctor about potentially curing her of her vampire infection. Along the way, a bunch of hijackers led by Dominic Purcell, the Australian actor who was in Prison Break as the older brother. They hijack this plane, they hurt her son, and the vampire comes out, and she goes ballistic. She takes out a whole heap of the hijackers. Unknowingly, one of the hijackers gets bitten and doesn't die, so he turns, and then he starts turning other passengers on the flight, and just chaos ensues as there's all these like vampires trapped on a plane, all going nuts, all trying to bite each other and kill heaps of people. And then it ends up being a fight between the mother, who is a good vampire, and the human passengers and her son against the bad vampires, who are some of the passengers have been turned and the other hijackers, and just gory, crazy vampire violence that was ridiculous. But I actually enjoyed this one. I was like, this is going to be
like absolute nonsense.
I was like, this is going to be
Is the whole thing like on the
Netflix
plane?
movie. Yeah. Oh, there's a very little bit at the end when the plane like finally lands. And yeah, just I was like, this will be a stupid Netflix movie, but it's Friday night. I'm tired. I just want to turn this on and not have to think about it, and it was great.
Yeah, exactly. It looks
it achieved everything I wanted. I didn't have to think. I just got to sit down and watch people get murdered and blood go everywhere. It was great. Perfect Friday night movie.
Yeah, I think these European movies they're picking up to dub. They're not mucking around. I think they're selecting them carefully, because I was just about to mention I watched one, a classic horror story. Mm-hmm. That's on Netflix too. It's I didn't realize actually, but it's Italian, and it's dubbed as well. But yeah, the dubbing was fine. I watched stuff in the past where the dubbing's been pretty far off. And you're like, but this one was good, very watchable. Just same thing. Didn't have to really think. It was pretty basic. Just what's called a classic horror story, and that's exactly what it was.
Yep.
Same sort of vibe, man. It was pretty gnarly, but very violent, gruesome.
Yeah, it's tough to watch those dubbed movies when the sync is like clearly way off, and it's like, oh, that's so off-putting. But this one, like, it was that close.
I think my first experience with dubbing was Marianne, the Netflix series that's in French, horror series. Really good in the end. Absolutely terrifying though. Probably one of the scariest things I've ever seen. But I didn't realize it was dubbed. That was my first experience with dubbing when I watched it, and I was like, "What the hell is this?" But that was a bit off. But you just learn to ignore it, or you get used to it, I guess. But you don't realize how much you watch people's mouths, like in movies, until you
without knowing it, like
dub. You're like, what? But you're just used to it. If you watch a movie in English, you're like, oh, but you you watch the mouth, but you just know what's happening. But yeah, you watch one of these international movies that have been dubbed, and yeah, you're like, oh, you don't realize
You're
how
like,
distracting it can be.
that mouth didn't just say that word. What?
Yeah, but then you almost, especially it's good that there's these horror movies that don't really have much dialogue or much
Yeah.
context. So by the time you spend 2 minutes trying to figure out, like, match what coming out of the mouth or what's Brent said, you don't lose track of what's happening on the screen.
Yeah.
So that's why I don't like subtitles. A lot of people are big advocates for subtitles, but like, because you can watch obviously in dubbed or you can just do the subtitles. But by the time I read what's on the screen, I'm getting distracted. I'm
you
not
miss
actually
the
watching
action.
the movie.
It's alright if it's like a
But I can't.
slow-paced movie that's all about the dialogue, but if it's like something action,
Yeah, I can't watch subtitles
based
instead
like
of
this.
dubbed.
If
But
it's
whereas
something
I can
action,
watch subtitles if it's English, like an English movie with English subtitles, just like sort of help you if it's like quiet,
Yeah.
the volume's quiet, so I can do that. But
Yeah.
yeah, not as an actual crucial to read scenario.
yeah, and if it's like fast-paced action, you're gonna miss something by sitting there reading the subtitles.
Yeah, imagine watching a movie like Tenet with subtitles. Tough off keeping track of what's going on as it is.
To be fair, I almost needed them in Tenet though, because that movie is super loud and
No,
then the dialogue is super quiet, and you're just like, huh?
you don't need subtitles. You need like a blurb to tell you what's actually happening.
Yeah, explain each
It's
scene.
like
to
a
me, please.
guide, a movie guide. Wow, surely there's a market for that. Having a movie guide.
For this Blood Red Sky, I was having a look at some of the like trivia and info and stuff. Apparently, this is one of 71 films that Netflix is releasing this year. And it's part of their strategy where they're aiming to release one brand new movie every week.
Really? So they're just picking out. Like, there obviously is probably going to be heaps more international movies like this. Like you just mentioned this one, then I literally watched one last week that was dubbed. So they're just going to be picking stuff up from film festivals here and there, eh? Just slapping Netflix on it.
Yeah,
So
I think what
hopefully
they're
the
trying to
quality
do is they're obviously going to pump in a lot of money to like their big budget series and sprinkle those throughout the year. But then in those gaps in between, they want to have, here's a new movie. Here's a reason to come back every week. Watch this movie. Next week, there'll be another one. Like, I think it's a pretty good idea. Yeah. Like it means you don't watch it and then go, I'm going to leave Netflix for a month and come back and watch everything in a month and then dip out again.
That's been the crap thing about Netflix is because always at the first of the month they add new stuff and they get rid of old stuff. But if it's like the 8th of August, week 1 of August, and you've already bored of Netflix, it's like you're not going to go back to it, are you? Like, well, you're going to pick it up again and like, oh shit, I've already been through it and there's nothing.
Yep.
So yeah, that's good. Weekly refreshes is good. That's what you want. And it's good with Netflix. You don't have to pay to rent or watch.
Yeah, you just watch. Yeah,
so if it's a higher subscription fee, I'm okay with that. Whereas Amazon, literally everything you have to pay for it.
Yeah, there's tons of stuff
$6 a month, but there is everything you got to pay to watch.
Tons of stuff where you can pay extra.
Netflix just needs to stay ahead of the game.
Looking at the stats for Blood Red Sky, apparently 50 million people watched it in its first 4 weeks on Netflix, which made it the most popular and most successful German original to date.
Huge. Wonder why.
And kind of soft spoilers, there's an ending where I'm like, they've left that ambiguous enough where they could come back and do a sequel to Blood Red Sky, which I wouldn't be
actually,
against.
when I was just Googling, there's a Blood Red Sky 2.
Is there?
Yep. What did I just see?
Pick it up, Netflix. I need
Blood
to see that.
Blood Red Sky 2 updates. Release date, story, and cast details.
So it's been signed off on. They're just making it. Awesome. I thought they left it open enough where it could be.
Yeah, it's nothing confirmed, but there's... it's sort of like an article about why they should make it, but yeah, it looks like there will be.
Lots of like rumors.
Oh no, there is. It's yet to be announced, but apparently it's happening.
Cool. Awesome. Sweet. Because it definitely leaves it to the point where you're like,
one to watch.
Yeah, they could follow on from there.
Yeah, this looks fun as. Maybe I'll become a dubbed movie specialist.
Yeah, you got one a week apparently, so you'll be able to find something.
I hope they're all internationals. They don't be pushing out.
I would imagine they would litter in a few like
Well, they'd have to.
American
Otherwise,
and
there's not
English ones.
that.
Otherwise, people
There's
will
not
get.
that many new movies. Well, I imagine the quality would diminish if they just have to push out English movie after English movie every week. Like just
Yeah,
for the sake of
and
it.
people would get annoyed if it was just all dubbed movies. They'd be like, "Where's the English content?" Because I know there's some people that are just like, "No, can't watch dubbed movies. I'm not doing it." It's like, give them a shot. Like
Yeah,
it's
I know
Netflix.
people.
It's free.
Yeah,
Just watch it.
I know
And
people like that.
if you hate
like,
it after
"No."
10 minutes, turn it off.
Not watching it. Yeah, exactly. Oh, no, I don't want to watch it. No, see yourself. It's a good movie. Just because you have to.
And then you were reading a book as well.
Right, I got a big book recommendation this week. Yeah, I've been reading. I'm still smashing books. You were going to read one a month, weren't you? How's that going for you?
Yeah, that went real well. I think I gave up
So
after
I think this is
3.
So this is like my 12th for the year, I think. So I'm a little bit off, or 13, a little bit off track because I wanted to read 2 a month. That's what I did.
Oh yeah, you were
last
going
year.
for 2. I was like, you're well ahead.
So
What are
I'm
you
a
talking
bit,
about?
I'm a bit down. Well, I should be. This is month 8. I should be on 16. So this is like 12 or 13. But anyway, that's not the point. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So Quentin Tarantino just released the official movie novel written by him. So it's a novel based on the movie. He's never. This is his first novel. He's never written a novel before. He's just finished doing the promo tour for it. And obviously I love Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Probably seen it 15 times already. This is a cool take on it. I was a bit worried though. It's a long movie with lots of detail. I almost thought, well, I wonder why this is taking this long to release a novel for its movies because they're all so intricate and detailed but it's about 400 pages. It wasn't a daunting 400 pages though, but it was pretty easy to read. So interesting, and a lot of people have always mentioned, but the age-old narrative is like people who read the novel before the movie, they say, "Oh, the novel's better." Or you can't go back and read the book after. But yeah, I enjoyed reading this after knowing so much about the movie. Like it painted a very clear picture of every scene in my head as I was reading. But the book, if Once Upon a Time, the movie Once Upon a Time in Hollywood wasn't already like a flex on Tarantino's knowledge of cinema and 1960s Hollywood, which it's almost like a love letter to Hollywood, this movie. And he's come out and said that. But this book is just the book is an encyclopedia, I reckon, on 1960s Hollywood film. The amount of name dropping of actors and TV shows, movies he does is phenomenal. That man knows so much. It's very interesting. So the cool thing too about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is like it's loosely set on a real life narrative and a real life time, but it has fictional characters and it sort of crosses over to the two. And this is when the book just like further cements that, I guess. But as far as how different the book and the movie goes, there was scenes in the book which I can only hope are in this final director's cut of the movie that is supposedly going to get released. This extended 3.5, 4 hour cut, which I think he has hinted towards on, especially he was on Rogan a few weeks ago, and he sort of said there is a director's cut, but it's probably only an hour longer, towards like 4 hours. But there was really cool scenes. Mainly the book was a lot about Brad Pitt's character, Cliff Booth.
Okay, yep.
So there was a lot about
background
him.
on him.
A lot more background of him. There was a lot more sort of cool scenes and backstory of his, where he sort of come from. And the big thing too, the ending. So the ending was probably the most talked about thing of the movie, of how like the Tate murders sort of got avoided. And that ending, the movie ending, in the book at all, it's completely different, which is was cool. So I was sort of towards getting to the end of the book, and I was like, when are they going to start building up for this big dramatic ending like it was in the movie? But it was completely different, which was cool. So I wonder if he's going to, in the director's cut, have like a completely different ending, because I think I did read somewhere early on that he had a couple of endings.
Yeah, I think they filmed multiple endings.
And I remember he actually Sharon Tate's sister Deborah. He actually met with her, sat down with her, and said, "Hey, this is how I'm going to end the movie. Is this okay with you?" So he had a bit of a relationship with Sharon Tate's sister too when making the movie, to sort of make sure everything was above board and respectful.
Do you have a
really
preference
enjoyed
for
the novel.
ending? The novel or the movie? Do you have a preference for an ending? Do you prefer the novel or the movie ending?
I would be cool to see the novel ending in the movie, on film.
Okay.
Good. I was sort of, because I'm such a fan of what happened, the real life story, that I was a little bit disappointed when I watched the movie. And I went to one of the early screenings, and when it was full cinema, the crowd reaction too, everyone was sort of expecting this absolute carnage at the end, where it was like this wholesome ending.
Yeah, that was.
And everyone's like,
I remember seeing it at the previous screening.
Emotionally wholesome. Everyone's like, "Oh, well, that was really a sweet way to flip the real life horrors."
Yeah, like I remember I was at the preview screening, and everyone in the room kind of said, "Huh, okay."
Yeah, there's
that's not where we expected it to go. Like,
yeah,
it was all promoted around being the 60s and the Manson murders.
It was like the Manson murders film, like a Tarantino film about the Manson murders. That's sort of what it was promoted as. Then all of a sudden, like, oh, so he's almost rewrote history. That's pretty much what's happened. Yeah, it was eerie.
Interesting flick.
Yeah, very good novel. So I'm hoping he maybe goes back and writes more novels based on his films. That'd be sick. He's an exceptional writer, like an absolute nerd, like a geek, film geek. It's weird. Yeah, it was a very enjoyable read. I couldn't put it down.
Okay, sweet.
Yeah, the Once Upon a Time in a Hollywood novel.
What would be your top recommendation for the week?
Well, everyone's stuck in lockdown. Everyone's sick of watching TV and movies. So pick up a book and read the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood novel by Quentin Tarantino.
Nice. For me, it's Candyman. Like I said, I think it's a return to form for Jordan Peele. Really cool direction by Nia DaCosta. So I think if you're a Jordan Peele fan, check it out just to see sort of the new direction of his movies.
If you can. You gotta wait to cinema.
If you can get to the cinema, yeah. For us, might have to wait till it hits a streaming.
Hey, just on that, I know in LA, at the sort of 12 months ago, or at this sort of point of the pandemic, they started really doing pushing the drive-through thing. And I think they may have tried doing it here. We really need to pick that back up again. Like drive-in cinemas, sorry.
Yeah, drive-in. I've only ever been to one, and it was awesome. It was fun.
There's a specific frequency you tune in your car radio, and that's your audio for the movie. But we need to be doing it. We need to be utilising empty showgrounds and empty car parks around here, setting up a screen and just getting all these new releases out there.
Yep. And yeah, you just got to remember to keep turning your car on every 40 minutes or so.
Yeah, that's a doozy.
Or you end up with the flat battery. Bad idea.
I think they even tried to do a couple of concerts too. I remember Blue Eye Showground had one booked for a couple of local bands. That would have been cool.
So I think that's everything for the week. Thank you for listening and watching the commentary booth. If you enjoyed the show, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe on podcast services, here on Twitch and over on YouTube as well. You can follow me on social media at JamieAppsMedia, and you can follow Blake on Twitter at Captain Crumbs with a Z. I'm also available at Pario Magazine. We now have a new issue at the printers. Should be out in the next week or two. So yeah, check those ones out, and we'll be back next week with... Who's here next week? Leah's coming back for a special episode to review...
Celebrity.
the joys of lockdown. Everybody's stuck at home watching stuff, so Leah has plenty of stuff to talk about. We're going to review. We're going to review the new Amazon Cinderella movie, and a bit of cooking with Paris.
Yes.
So that'll be a fun chat.
Yeah, excellent.
Okay, the Commentary Booth is a fan-funded production of Jam Yaps Media. You can support the podcast alongside our magazine, Pario Magazine, on Patreon at patreon.com/Jam Yaps Media. The following people supported at the community support group level or higher, and you cannot fathom how incredibly appreciative we are for their support. Brian and June Hart, Courtney Paulson, Jackson Carr, Tracy Apps. Okie doke, that's everything for the show, and we will be back next week. Bye.